Hi, I'm Cassie, and this is Surprise Let's Play. Okay, today we are actually going to be finishing the last chapter of Meet Josifina, and then we are going to be moving on to the next book, and that is going to be Meet Kristen. So I'm really excited because I have not read Kristen's book that I remember. It might start coming to me, but anyways, let's start on the last chapter of Meet Josifina, which is chapter 4, Josifina's Idea. Never had Josifina been more eager to begin a day. The next morning, she was up even earlier than usual. Quietly, so that she wouldn't wake Francesca or Clara, Josifina rolled up the sheepskins and blankets that were her bed. She dressed and slipped outside. The moon hung low in the sky. It cast such a strong, pure light that everything was bathed in silver or shadow. Josifina went to the kitchen. Early as it was, Carmen was already there grinding corn for the morning meal. Her husband was starting the kitchen fire. Carmen nodded good morning to Josifina and handed her a water jar to fill at the stream, just as she did every morning. But this morning was different for Josifina. This was the morning of the day Tia Dolores was going to spend with her and her sisters. The huge front gate was closed, so Josifina stepped through the small door cut into the gate. She closed the door behind her and ran across the moon-washed ground to Abuelito's wagon. Standing on tiptoe, she looked in. There was the big crate with Tia Dolores' piano inside. Josifina poked her finger through a crack in the crate and touched the polished wood of the piano. She smiled when she remembered the pleasure its music had given her. Then she skipped down to the stream, thinking of the melody Tia Dolores had played. The tune stayed in her head as she did her early morning chores. She gathered eggs, singing it. She swept the courtyards, dancing to it. She piled wood next to the fireplaces in time to its rhythm. When the village church bell rang its call to prayers at 7 o'clock, it seemed to ring along with the tune. And when the family said good morning prayers together in front of the small altar in the family sala, dedicating their day's work to God, their voices seemed to rise and fall just as the piano notes had. The music seemed to be everywhere Josifina went. Tia Dolores did too. Tia Dolores was interested in everything. At breakfast she said, "I want to see as much of the rancho as I can today." So after breakfast, Josifina led Tia Dolores through the orchard, past the cornfields, and to the stream. They filled their water jars and carried them up to water the kitchen garden. Then they picked some fat pumpkins for Tia Dolores to take home with her to Santa Fe the next day. "I am sure my mother has no pumpkins as big as these in her garden," said Tia Dolores. Wherever she went, Tia Dolores found something to praise. Josifina led Tia Dolores to the weaving room. There, Clara showed her the sheep's wool she had carded, spun, and dyed. Tia Dolores admired the colors. "There are no colors finer than these in all of Mexico," she said. Tia Dolores was a good teacher. She showed Clara a faster way to knit the heel on a sock. She showed Francesca how to sew a patch over a hole so that it hardly showed at all. Josifina was in the back courtyard clearing away the dead stems Florecita had trampled when Tia Dolores joined her. "I brought you some seeds to plant," she said to Josifina as she handed her a small package. "Gracias," said Josifina. I'll help you for a while, then I promised Anna I would make bread with her," said Tia Dolores. She began to dig holes in the soil for the seeds. "Anna has lots of responsibilities, doesn't she?" "Yes," agreed Josifina. "It's hard for Anna. Mama ran the household so smoothly, but Anna doesn't always know what to do, and Mama is not here to teach her." "Anna is young," said Tia Dolores, as she covered some seeds with soil. "It's a good thing she has you and Francesca and Clara to help her." Josifina nodded slowly. "We try," she said, "but sometimes—" She stopped. Tia Dolores gave her a questioning look. Josifina sighed. She dug a little hole in the soil. "You see," she said, "Francesca and Clara fight a lot. They're so different. Clara is careful and practical, and Francesca is so quick and fiery. When Mama was alive, she put a stop to their arguments before they began. But now, well, Anna tries, but she's too soft-hearted, and they won't mind her." I try to joke them out of fighting. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Blessed are the peacemakers, said Tia Dolores softly, for they will be called the children of God. She smiled at Josifina. You know, she said, it's perfectly natural for sisters to disagree. You should have heard your mama and me sometimes. She was quite a few years older than I was. I'm sure she thought I was a miserable pest. I wanted to be like her. Once I wore her best sash without her permission, and I lost it. Your mama was very angry. She wouldn't speak to me for days, but she finally forgave me. Josifina realized suddenly, Tia Dolores misses her sister. She misses Mama too, just as much as we do. She said, I wish you could be here to protect these flowers from Florecita when they bloom. I'd love to see the flowers, said Tia Dolores, but you can protect them from Florecita. You aren't afraid of her anymore. You don't need me. You will make your mama's flowers bloom again and keep them safe, Josifina. I know you will. Oh, Tia Dolores, it's beautiful, said Ana. She draped a silk rebozo over her shoulders. Its colors were as bright as flowers. Gracias. It was early afternoon, just after the midday meal. Ana, Francesca, Clara, and Josifina were gathered in the family sala. Tia Dolores had called them together. She had presents for them all. Francesca, said Tia Dolores, this is a sewing diary I made for you. She gave Francesca a little handmade book. There are sketches of dresses in it, and samples of material, and notes about how to make the dresses. Gracias, said Francisca. Eagerly, she looked at the sewing diary. The dresses are so elegant, Tia Dolores, she said. I wish you could be here to help us make them. She looked up and joked, I'm afraid I will sew a sleeve upside down. The notes and directions will help you, said Tia Dolores. Francesca looked doubtful. But I can't read, she said. None of us can. Oh, said Tia Dolores. Well then, just use your good sense. I'm sure if you and your sisters help each other, you will do very well. For Clara, Tia Dolores had brought a fine pair of scissors and some sewing needles. Clara was very pleased because her gift was beautiful and useful. And this is for you, Josifina, said Tia Dolores. She handed Josifina a necklace, a small dark red stone, surrounded by gold, hung from a delicate chain. Josifina smiled. The necklace was lovely. Gracias, Tia Dolores, she said. Her hands were shaky with excitement as she put the necklace on. My, sighed Francesca, isn't that necklace quite grown up? Yes, indeed it is, said Tia Dolores firmly. And isn't Josifina quite grown up too? Francesca said no more. Tia Dolores, said Anna, how did you know what would be the perfect gift for each one of us? Tia Dolores smiled. All the years I lived in Mexico City, I looked forward to the caravans coming, she said. I knew Abuelito would bring some stories about all of you and your life here on the rancho. Sometimes he'd bring a letter dictated by your mama. I felt as if I were watching you grow up even though I was far away. When I decided to come home, I enjoyed thinking about what present to bring each of you. Well, said Anna, I'm sorry we didn't know that you were coming. We have nothing to give you in return for your gifts. Oh, Tia Dolores laughed. This day with you is all the gift I want. When the afternoon had cooled into early evening, Tia Dolores and Abuelito walked to the village. They wanted to say a prayer at Mama's grave. They were also going to visit Papa's oldest sister who lived in the village. Josifina and her sisters sat in a corner of the front courtyard that was still warm from the heat of the day's sun. Every now and then they could hear Anna's little boys laughing with Carmen in the kitchen nearby. The sisters were peeling back the husks from roasted ears of corn. They were going to braid the husks together to make a long string of ears so the corn could be hung out to dry. Josifina said, Hasn't it been a nice day today having Tia Dolores here? Yes, said Anna. She was such a help to me, and she was so kind to my little boys. Tia Dolores is a very sensible, hard-working person, said Clara. That was her highest praise. Oh, Clara, protested Francisca, you make her sound as dull as these ears of corn. I found her to be elegant and graceful. Josifina decided the time had come to tell her sisters her idea. She picked up an ear of corn, peeled the husk slowly. What if, she said quietly, we asked Tia Dolores to stay? No one said anything. They were all too surprised. Josifina went on. She could help us and teach us the way she did today. She wouldn't stay, said Francisca. She's used to life in Mexico City, where there are lots of grand people and grand houses. She doesn't want to live on a rancho. But she says she always loved to hear about the rancho when Abuelito came to visit her, remember? Said Josifina. And she doesn't act fancy or put on airs. She likes it here. She was interested in everything. Yes, said Anna, but I think perhaps she has come home hoping to get married and start a family of her own. She's not too old for that, you know. She wouldn't have to stay here forever, said Josifina. Just a few months. And anyway, she is our aunt. We are her family. Clara picked up several ears of corn and put them in her lap. Well, she said in her flat, no-nonsense manner, even if Tia Dolores would be willing to stay, it wouldn't be proper for us to ask her. Papa would have to approve the idea. He would have to be the one to ask her to stay. Josefina's heart sank. She hadn't thought of that. She knew Clara was right. Who wants to be the one to present the idea to Papa? Clara asked. I certainly don't. She turned to Josefina. It's your idea, she said. Do you want to talk to Papa about it? Josefina looked down at the ear of corn in her hands. No, she said in a small voice. Will you go to him, Anna? Clara asked. You are the oldest. Oh, I couldn't, said Anna. Papa might think I was complaining if I say that I need Tia Dolores' help. He might think I don't want to do what is my responsibility to do. Oh, exclaimed Francesca. She stood up and brushed off her skirt. I'm not afraid to talk to Papa. I'll just march right up to him and say, Papa, you must ask Tia Dolores to stay. Anna, Clara, and Josefina looked at each other. They knew that was not at all the right way to speak to Papa. It wasn't that Papa was stern or cold, but he was the patron and head of the rancho and the head of their family. The girls had never presented such an important idea to him before. It wouldn't have to be done politely. It would have to be done politely and with respect. Wait, Francesca, said Josefina. She stood up too. I think all of us should speak to Papa. We should go together. That way Papa will see that all four of us would like Tia Dolores to stay. Anna and Clara didn't move. Come on, said Josefina. She grinned. Don't worry, I'll do the talking if you don't want to. Last night I had the courage to stand up to Florecita. Papa is much, much kinder than she is. The sister found Papa near the animal pens. He was tightening the latch on the gate. He smiled when he saw Josefina. The latch is stronger now, he said. We shouldn't have any more goats in Mama's flowers. That's good, said Josefina. She swallowed. Francesca gave her a little shove forward. Papa, Josefina said, may we ask you something? Papa looked at the four girls. Yes, he said. Do you think, Josefina said carefully, that you could ask Tia Dolores to stay here with us for a while? Ask her to stay, repeated Papa. Yes, said Josefina. Not forever, just for a while. She could help us, and she could teach us the way Mama did. Please, would you ask her? Josefina saw a look of sadness cross Papa's face. He turned away. I'll consider it, he said. But Papa, Francesca blurted, you must... Josefina tugged on Francesca's sleeve and frowned at her to make her stop talking. Gracias, Papa, said Josefina. She hesitated, and then she added, we need Tia Dolores. Then she and her sisters left. What do you think Papa will do? Francesca whispered. She and Clara and Josefina were in their sleeping sala, getting ready for bed. Do you think he will speak to Tia Dolores? I don't know, said Josefina. I hope so. And if he does ask her, what do you think she will say? Francisca wondered aloud. Josefina sighed. I don't know, she said again. I think you're silly to wonder about it, Clara said. We'll find out tomorrow. Abuelito and the caravan will leave first thing in the morning. Tia Dolores will either leave with him or not. We'll just have to wait and see. Oh, I hate waiting, said Francisca. The three sisters smiled at each other. They all hated to wait. On that they certainly agreed. The next morning, they were up early. Even Francesca, who was usually slow getting dressed, was ready and waiting for Ana, Clara, and Josefina next to Abuelito's wagon. They watched the servants load Abuelito's small trunk into the wagon. Then, with sinking hearts, the sisters saw Tia Dolores' trunk loaded into the wagon as well. "Papa didn't ask her," Francesca groaned. "Or maybe he did, and she said no," said Ana. "She doesn't want to stay," Clara added. Josefina was so disappointed she couldn't talk. A lump rose in her throat when she heard Papa and Tia Dolores and Abuelito coming. Suddenly, Josefina didn't want to stand there by the wagon 1 second longer. She couldn't bear to kiss Tia Dolores and Abuelito goodbye. Without a murmur, she slipped away, back inside the house. She went to the grand sala because it was the only room that was sure to be empty. As she walked in the cool darkness of the grand sala, she remembered how it looked the night of the fandango, full of life and music. Now there was nothing but shadows. Just then, in the corner of the room, Josefina saw a large, dark shape. She caught her breath when she saw what it was. It was Tia Dolores' piano. Instantly, Josefina knew that meant Tia Dolores would never have left her piano, unless... Josefina flew across the courtyard and out the front gate so fast it seems as if she had wings on her feet. Tia Dolores caught her in her arms. "There you are, Josefina," Tia Dolores said. "I wanted to say goodbye to you." Josefina pulled back and looked at Tia Dolores' face. "I'm going to Santa Fe," Tia Dolores said. "I'm going to see my dear mama, whom I have not seen for 10 years. But then I'll come back." "When?" Josefina asked. Tia Dolores laughed. "Soon," she said, "and when I come back, I'll stay as long as you need me." Josefina hugged Tia Dolores hard. Then Tia Dolores swung herself up onto the wagon. "Well, well, well," said Abuelito. He pretended to be cross. "Now it seems that if I want to see Dolores, I'm going to have to come here and see all of you girls too. What a bother, what a bother," he sighed. "At least I don't have to carry that piano with me today. Though if we meet up with any thieves, I'll just have to frighten them off with my singing, I suppose." Then he kissed Josefina and her sisters goodbye and gave them his blessing. "Adios, Abuelito," called all the girls at the wagons as the wagon pulled away. "Adios, Tia Dolores. Come back soon," Josefina sang out as she waved goodbye. As soon as the wagon was out of sight, Josefina hurried back inside. She went to the kitchen to get a jar. She wanted to fill the jar with water to sprinkle on Mama's flowers. "Tia Dolores will be back soon," she thought. "I want the flowers to be beautiful when she returns." Josefina set off for the stream, whistling Tia Dolores' tune. I didn't mean to cry at the end of that, but it was just so sweet, the relationships families can have. And this story was just so sweet. I could tell that they purposely put some tearjerkers in there, but that's all right, I guess. So anyways, thank you so much for reading this book with me. If you have followed along, I really appreciate it, and I'm sorry that it has come to an end. Please join me for our next video where we will be reading Meet Kirsten. Anyways, thank you, you guys.